Jai Hind. We are trapped in echo chambers shaped by conflicting V narrative of two deeply divided communities. Each side dismisses the other voice, leaving the average citizen bewildered and uninformed about the real issues plaguing Manipur. Now, in this noise, objective perspectives have lost their relevance. What is urgently needed now is a sincere effort to understand, empathize with, and address the fragile situation that threatens the stability of the entire Northeast region. Jai Hind and welcome to the Geopolitical Insider Team MND The Futurists. In this video, we will talk about Manipur. Now, for the first time in months, there has been a lull in violence. A new governor, a former Union Home Secretary, who earlier managed this crisis for 16 months, brings fresh hope with his on ground expertise and administrative foresight. Yet, while media coverage has surged since the outbreak on 3rd May 2023, critical context and long standing grievances remain inadequately addressed. Every Indian citizen is a stakeholder in this crisis and they must try to understand the historical and socio political dynamics at play. Now, the seeds of discord. The three bills of August 2015, though the violence was triggered by the Manipur High Court order of 27th March 2023, the real fault lines trace back to August 2015 when the Manipur Assembly unanimously passed three contentious bills. First, the People's Protection Bill. Second, the Land Revenue and Land Reforms 7th Amendment Bill. And third, the Shops and Establishments 2nd Amendment Bill. Now, though these bills, they never received presidential assent, they were perceived by the tribal communities and especially by the Kukis and Nagas as their constitutional encroachments upon their own rights. So the immediate aftermath saw protests and violence, including the death of 9 Kukis in Churachampur. Their bodies were kept unburied for 632 days in protest, a haunting testament to the deep mistrust and discontent simmering beneath the surface. Now, the outbreak and the role of security forces. So, by late April 2023, the Indigenous Tribal Leaders Forum (ITLF) had flagged multiple grievances, including forest surveys, village evictions, and land rights. On 3rd May, a planned tribal solidarity march escalated into widespread violence across Imphal, Churachandpur, Bishnupur, More, and Kankopi. Now, the army and Assam Rifles had anticipated unrest and they were on standby. By 4th May, over 100 columns were deployed. This number grew to a nearly 150 by 6th May. So, their duties included prevention, the burning of villages, providing safe passage to civilians, offering medical aid, and setting up camps, arresting perpetrators of violence. Now, despite hostile conditions, including aggressive blockades, resistance from local groups, notably women led protests, and a lack of riot control equipment, the security forces maintained restraint and neutrality. So, what are the criticisms and operational challenges? Now, the Assam Rifles, a force with a 190-year-old legacy in Northeast, faced criticism from both communities accused of favoring the Kukis or being harsh to the Metis. Now, such allegations are not only baseless, but they are also dangerous. It is unfathomable to assume that India's disciplined security apparatus would exhibit communal bias. Now, the challenges faced by security forces include FIRs being filed by one security agency against another, online disinformation and false narratives from ethnic aligned media, blockades disrupting logistics and movement, morale issues due to long and stressful deployment. Still, human rights violations were avoided, demonstrating the professionalism of our forces under exceptional pressure. So, what are the psychological scars and the youth there? Perhaps the most tragic consequence is the psychological trauma inflicted upon the youth. Today's generation will pass on tales of, unfortunately, hatred and violence for decades, further entrenching division. So, reconciliation efforts must begin now, led by civil society, women's group, youth leaders, then armed militants ready to lay down arms. Fighting till the end, as some insist, is a path to collective ruin. That should be understood. So now let's also understand the FMR, the Free Movement Regime and border fencing, though I have written about this in my book also. In 2023, the Home Ministry announced the scrapping of this free movement regime and initiated border fencing around the Myanmar border. While concerns have been raised about the cutting ethnic ties across the border, the plan includes smart fencing and regulated crossings to safeguard security while respecting cultural heritage. So, transparent communication and proactive engagement with local communities are essential for ensuring public buy in and minimizing unrest. Of SPA. Reintroductory, unnecessary, even the reintroduction of AFSPA in 6 out of 13 police stations after being previously revoked, it has been controversial because, however, it is a calculated move by the government of India necessitated by deteriorating ground realities. Now, this thing enables swift military action in conflict zones and its rollback remains contingent on the tangible improvements in law and order. Now, what is the media narrative and the truth? Now, the role of mainstream and social media has been deeply problematic, unfortunately. Many platforms have either chosen sides or indulged in misinformation, further escalating tensions. Truth has certainly become a casualty in this conflict. So while censorship is neither possible nor desirable, guidelines for ethical journalism and responsible social media use must be considered, especially during internal security crisis. That's very important. Now, what is the wider Northeast and Act East policy? Now, Manipur is not just a domestic issue, it is a